Hey folks, I'll be doing stand-up comedy this Friday, January 6th, as part of the Edge of Laughter comedy show. That's at Neon Venus, 7023 Melrose Avenue, Los Angeles. This Friday, January 6th, $10 at the door. It's an all-ages show, but beer will be on sale for people over the age of 21. And I'm part of that comedy show. You get to see people like Mark White, the goth comedian. I can't wait. That's this Friday, January 6th, the Edge of Laughter show at Neon Venus. See me there. And now, on to 2012.
I'm too lazy to do a podcast, so I appear on other people's podcasts. This is podcast.
Welcome to the show and a happy belated New Year to you. I say belated New Year because I don't know when you're listening to this. You could be listening to it right now, and I forgot to wish you a happy New Year. You could be listening to this 6 months from now. Who knows? You're catching up on old shows. But a happy belated New Year to all of you. I had quite a fun New Year's. If you heard our Dr. Susie show, I think you know what I'm talking about. But enough of that. I like to do this every year at the beginning of the year. I do this generally on either the 31st or the 1st of January. I make a list of goals. I make a list of things I'd like to accomplish. I know a lot of people do that. Some of you call them resolutions. I just call them goals. I don't know. I've always, these are the things I actually want to get done. It's a checklist that I make. And I learned this thing. Actually, yeah, sure. I do a podcast. I know how to talk. I read this thing that Olympic athletes like to make a list of their goals. Run really fast, win a gold medal. Okay, that's probably a simple list. But they like to make a list of goals. And I had read that a lot of these Olympic athletes will make a list of their goals and then put them in their wallet. Because it's something, you go into your wallet every day. You use money probably daily for something. And you see the money in your wallet. Maybe a paltry, pathetic, small amount of money. But, we look at our wallets every day. And if you look at this list every day, kind of focus on this list of goals, it's a way for you to actually to achieve them because it's constantly in your mind. You're constantly being reminded of this list of things to do. So I've done this now for about 20 years. And so I like to make a new list. What's funny is how many items from the list carry over from the previous year. Some of these goals and projects, they take some time, folks. I should mention also, this is the first podcast I'm doing solo. I'm just recording this by myself, mainly as a courtesy to others because I've been sick over the entire holiday break. I'm now on the third week of a cold that I can't seem to get rid of. So if you hear my voice sounding a little, that's why. But one of the things that actually helped me put together my list for this year is I read Chris Hardwick's book, The Nerdist Way, How to Reach the Next Level in Life. And I got to tell you something. I love this book. And I'm not just saying this because I work with Chris at my job at G4 on Attack of the Show. It's an amazing book. I love self-help books. I usually will read a self-help book and write down a couple pieces of information I'll get from something. Some good ones, Getting Things Done, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, The 4-Hour Work Week. These are all really helpful. And The Nerdist Way, I think, has earned a place among them. Chris did a great job on this book. He actually makes it fun. I think it's of all those books, it's the most funny, which I think is not that difficult for him. He's a comedian. Of course, I should have expected it to be good. In particular, the first section, the mind, how to kind of retrain your mind. Chris does a great job with it. And I have to admit something, though. Wait, I didn't actually read his book. I listened to his book. I probably mentioned before, I like to listen to audiobooks because, like a lot of people who live in Los Angeles, I spend way too much time sitting in traffic, and it's annoying, and I want to use my time well. So I listen to books. I am very well listened. And I in particular love to listen to autobiographies that are read by the authors. I mean, what better way to absorb the book than hearing the author who it's about read it to you? Steve Martin's book, Born on the Stage, is great for that. Steve Martin in particular, great one. And I just listened to Bossy Pants by Tina Fey, another great one. But Chris's book is amazing in terms of just helping you focus on things that you'd like to accomplish and achieve. And I've always admired what Chris has done with this little nerdist thing. But his book is great. So one of the things that really inspired me, every year I think, I'm gonna drink a little less. I do like to drink. Not to excess where I end up blacking out or doing things stupid. The dumbest thing I usually end up doing when I drink is I'll eat something I shouldn't. I'll have a slider or 5. So I thought, well, I'm going to cut down on my drinking, and I had an idea of how I should do that. Is that every week I'm going to give up a different drink. So this week I'm giving up dark beer. So I had my last dark beer, and now I will not have a dark beer again. And then next week I'm going to give up rum and cokes. And then the week after that, I'll give up gin and tonics. And then the week after that, I'll give up vodka tonics. And then the week after that, I'll give up White Russians. And then the week after that, I'm going to give up PBRs. If I go at that pace, it's going to take me a couple of years, but I'm pretty sure I will have ended all of my drinking if I can give up a drink a week. That's my goal, is a drink a week. The first week I'm giving up dark beer. Dark beer. I mentioned my voice. Did I mention that my voice is not the best from this cold and scratchiness? I need a lozenge. In any case, so listening to Hardwick's book, in one of the best sections, he talks about his own bout with drinking, and he was a heavy drinker of the beer stuffs, and he tells a sad story about what inspired him to stop drinking, which was he was watching The Daily Show, and Jenny McCarthy was on the show. Jenny McCarthy, who he did that dating show that he would not like me to mention, but he did this dating show in which he was the funniest and best part of the show, I thought. But when Jenny McCarthy was on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, he asked something about, he said, Chris Hardwick somehow came up in the conversation. Jon Stewart said, "Oh yeah, he works here now. He gets our coffee for us." And Chris was sitting there kind of 20 beers in, watching the TV, and sort of took a hard look at himself. And this is what inspired him to quit drinking. And I have to say, I really admire that, and admire the way that he was able to be so revealing in telling that story. And I actually Googled Fat Chris Hardwick, and the pictures that came up, if you see, I mean, Chris, he's a good looking man. I'm going to be honest with you. He's a good looking, if you see Chris, I mean, I think his middle name is Adonis, but he is a fit, attractive man. You could never guess his age, and he's a good looking guy. But apparently back in the day, and I never knew him then, he was doughy. We're talking about doughy beyond the Seth Rogen doughy years. He was extremely doughy. So I Googled some pictures of Chris. And I got to say, those pictures, thank you, Chris, for that, because those pictures are what have inspired me to actually quit drinking. And I'm on the long-term plan now to give up the drinking, but a drink a week, I can achieve that goal. That's my goal. Now, this week's podcast that I'm going to crash is the Spooky Hour Horror Hour. That's what it's actually called. It's the Spooky Hour Horror Hour, also known as Shh. And it's hosted by a guy, Ted Bracewell. And I know Ted. How do I know Ted? I don't know. I met him at some gaming event. I started following him on Twitter. He's at Ted Bracewell. And Ted's just funny. He doesn't tweet very often, but when he does, he has funny stuff to say. And I have to say, I think I actually tweet. I tweet a lot. I tweet too much. In fact, I'm generally embarrassed when I find out someone from my work or someone from my family or an old friend, I follow you on Twitter. I want to apologize to them immediately. I just hope they don't read everything because I tweet too much and I talk too much, which explains why I go on other podcasts. In any case, Ted Bracewell's podcast, Spooky Hour, Horror Hour, it's hosted by Ted, but it also has a group of interesting folks, Rachel Moore, there's a whole bunch of other people that are on the show, and you can hear them it was recorded via Skype, so the audio kind of varies in quality. And we talk about everything from Chillerama to The Walking Dead to Serbian film. And of course, it's the new year. Why not start out with a horror podcast? I mean, I'll be crashing many different podcasts in future episodes of PodCRASH, but we're kicking off 2012. We're kicking off 2012 with a horror podcast. And we get into some really interesting conversation. I'll be jumping in every once in a while to provide some commentary where necessary. But I'm really just going to play you the highlights. And it's really good to be back. It's good to be back. I promise I will recover. I need to recover because end of this week on Friday, I'm doing a stand-up gig at the that I talked about earlier at Neon Venus. That's 8 p.m. Neon Venus on Melrose Avenue. And then also, have I mentioned you can hear PodCRASH with me, that Chris Gore, on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, or Palm phones, on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it for free at Stitcher.com or in your favorite app store. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smart way to listen to radio. See how I snuck that in at the last minute, just as I was about to get to the Spooky Hour, Horror Hour, with Ted Bracewell and friends and me crashing it. Yes. Ooh.
Chris motherfucking Gore.
Did you say Olivia Munn?
Thank you for that invite, Ted. I do appreciate it. Wow. My middle name is actually motherfucker.
Is it really?
No, it's
Chris Mother.
It's not.
Lawrence.
It's something Irish, actually.
We'll get to the bottom of that before the end of the show.
Yeah. Interesting facts about me that no one gives a shit about. That'll be a new segment.
But your name is Gore, so this is the proper show for you to be on.
Yeah. Actually, it is. What's so funny is we're going to be talking about horror, obviously. I am very squeamish when it comes to gore effects in movies. Whenever I see anything gory, to this day, I still have to turn away when I see stuff that's bloody and disgusting. Like,
finally, somebody else on this show that has my point of view. Thank you, Mr. Gore.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Hey, power to all the guys like us who are also pussies. I think that
he said it, so I did not have to.
Right. But even there was a recent episode of Dexter where I was kind of turning away. Like, oh my God, I know.
What?
Last night they slit a lady's throat, and I turned my head when I saw the knife come out.
You know what's funny? I did the exact same thing. I just get squeamish when it comes to stuff that's gory. I don't like knives. I made a whole short film when I was in college once, just about a guy's fear of needles and getting shots. Kind of autobiographical in a way.
That's a fear we can all agree with, especially when you're a child. When I was a child, one thing about that is you're not going to let them give you the shot. No, you're getting the shot.
You're getting the shot. But even to this day, when I go and get a shot at the doctor's office, they say, don't give me a countdown. Don't tell me when. I'm just going to look the other way. Right. I can't get a shot. And then when I see my own blood, I can't.
Not even a flu shot?
I'm like, well, flu, I mean, yeah, I can't look at it. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't give a shit. Like, go ahead. Whatever medically you have to do to me, just do it. I just don't want to see it happening.
I don't mind the shot stuff. It's like...
I don't do shots. I can't do needles. No, thank you. But I can watch a baby get ripped out of a womb. That's no problem.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
When did that happen?
That leads us to a topic I wanted to talk to you about.
A topic?
A topic.
That's one of our favorite movies.
You reviewed on DV Tuesday a few weeks ago a Serbian film.
Oh my God! Yes, I did.
You saw the Americanized, edited version.
I did see the American version. Yes.
You've not seen the.
I have not seen. I will admit I have not seen the unedited version. And the thing is this: I saw the version that I was required to see to do my job. A lot of films like Human Centipede, both the first one and I know the second one's coming out soon. Those are movies that when I found out that they existed, was like. I don't know that I actually want to see these because do I really want those things in my head? We can only fill our head with a certain amount of I think we have a maximum hard drive storage space. Do I really want those images in my head? So I knew, for example, I had to see Human Centipede for work, and I of course watched it. With a Serbian film, it was the Americanized version. I know what happens from reading the internet. I know what happens in the unedited version, and I'm pleased that I didn't have to endure that.
I can tell you 3 of the 4 hosts have seen the unedited foreign version. It actually had a screener yellow thing on it. It's not that bad. It's like,
here's what the problem was, Ted. We had read everything that was going to be in it before we watched it. And the problem is our minds are so screwed up. When we actually watched the movie, it didn't meet those expectations when we actually watched it.
You're more fucked up than the film.
Exactly.
We would have made a better film than they did.
I don't think most people can watch that movie, but I mean, we can, and it was awesome.
It's a guy. The scene that's missing is a guy births a woman, takes a very rubber baby out of this woman.
It's very fake looking.
A very rubber baby out of a very rubber vagina, and he continues to off screen just thrust his pelvis at it, and then a guy starts screaming newborn porn.
And
that is the scene that was cut out of the movie.
Yes, I had heard that. I had heard about that scene. And actually, when I was watching, because I didn't actually know which version I had when I was given the screener copy, and I was waiting for that scene to come on. It never happened. I thought, well, maybe that got cut, Obviously, this is the Americanized version, but yeah, I'm actually pleased that I didn't have to endure it.
But what do you think about being in America? You should be able to have nothing should be banned in America, in my opinion. There's an audience for anything, and I think it should be available like video games. Kids shouldn't see it, shouldn't play it.
Right. If you put a rating on it, I think it's fine. The ratings are a guideline for consumers, and I think that's fine. You're right. And the thing is this, though, a lot of people don't understand censorship. For example, them editing a film like that to be released in the United States is not censorship. The only official body that can censor anything is the U.S. government. It's self-censorship in the interest of commerce, so that when they edit versions of movies, like say they take an unrated version of a film and they edit it to an R-rated, or take an R-rated, make it PG-13, it's just so that it can be in more retail outlets, so that it can be sold in more places. It's like so that it can actually be in the Xbox Live Zune video marketplace. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you now, Chris, I have seen some stuff in the Xbox marketplace that is not censored at all. It's like, have you seen the film called Antichrist?
Is that the one by Lars von Trier?
Yes.
Yes, I have not seen that. If I have to see it for my work, I will force myself.
It's extremely unedited on Xbox Live.
I was about to say it's not edited at all. And
it's lame.
The scenes it had in it, though, are very hardcore.
Here's what I love about stuff like that is, like, a lot of times stuff like that, like a Serbian film is a good example. It's a film that is almost more fun to discuss, more fun to read about, more fun to argue over than it is to actually see.
That's true.
So did the American version of Serbian film still have, like, the death by blowjob scene?
Is that where he puts his penis in the guy's eye, or like?
No.
Oh, that was a good one too. I forgot about that. But they pulled all these girls her teeth out, and then he gave her such a hard blowjob that it killed her. It choked her to death.
Suffocated. Yeah.
Rachel, you've never done anything like that.
I don't have a dick.
I just wanted to say that you may listen to a lot of other podcasts, hundreds. On iTunes or Stitcher or the internet or however you absorb those podcasts and put them into your ears. I don't think that you will hear any podcast this year other than Spooky Hour, Horror Hour, in which you hear a woman say the words "death by blowjob." That's all I have to say on that. So achievement unlocked for me. Now back to the podcast.
But I didn't know that scene
Rachel,
made it
when you look
into
at
America.
something like that, do you think, hey, something new to try with my boyfriend?
No, for that scene, I thought that was probably the worst in the movie because, like, what a terrible way to die. Like, not only is it humiliating, but you choked on a dick. That's pretty bad.
This chokes on
Wait. What did you say? I missed that last part, Rachel.
I think it'd be humiliating to choke on a dick.
Yeah, because that's something I'm hoping you've never done.
No.
Good to hear.
That, on the other hand.
So you know what? Just for that, guys, I think Rachel deserves an applause. I think
That's true.
right now, wow. She has never choked on a dick, folks.
It's not for her lack of trying either.
Yeah.
That's something
awesome.
that Ted and Subsy cannot say.
Yeah, right.
Me and Subsy cannot say the same that we've never choked on dicks.
Right.
Yeah.
But going into the human, you've not seen Human Centipede 2. That actually came out a little while ago.
I haven't seen Human Centipede 2. And look, it's not for lack of interest. I want to say, but the problem is for me, it really comes down to a time management issue. I mean, every week I have favorite shows that I like to watch. Walking Dead, Dexter, Boardwalk Empire, a lot of shows that I enjoy watching recreationally. And then there are the things I must watch for work. Then there are movies that I really like, that I would like to see in the theaters. So it comes down to time management. Once Human Centipede comes up and Human Centipede 2 comes up in the cycle, I'm sure I will be seeing it on DVD.
Again, the edited version. We saw the edited one.
You saw the edited one?
They cut it again. We have a bunch of pirates and thieves in our group that get us shows we can't watch.
Right.
And I don't feel bad about bootlegging. I can't see it anywhere.
Well, that's the thing. The thing is this. I mean, they create a bootleg market.
Well, you would
by
have
having
never
it unavailable.
seen the real Serbian film if you had waited for the DVD of it.
Well, the thing is this. Like, for example, the last film that really was, I don't want to say banned from the United States, but it just had such difficulty being released that it never got released officially in the U.S. Was Battle Royale. Battle Royale was released in the UK in an NTSC Region 1 version, okay, which effectively is called the gray. They call it the gray market because they knew when they released it in the UK in basically the US format that people from the United States would buy it, and of course I was one of those people. In fact, I bought two versions, one from Korea and one from the UK, so that I could see Battle Royale, and it's brilliant. I mean, Battle Royale makes that stupid pussy Hunger Games look like a Twilight movie. I mean, pretty much that Hunger Games looks like a Twilight movie. I mean, Battle Royale is the real thing. I mean, really, the first one anyways. The second Battle Royale was a big disappointment.
Yeah.
But in any case.
Going into Human Centipede 2, though, we saw it incredibly violent. The one thing we read was cut out of the version we saw, which I think it's not as bad as the baby. This movie has a graphic baby death scene, too, and they left it in.
Let's face it, though. Babies are assholes. They're such fucking assholes. I'm going to sit here, eat poop. I'm going to interrupt everything. Fuck babies.
They're like
just like they did in a Serbian film.
I'm going to make noise, get us killed on The Walking Dead.
Yeah,
that's true.
But the scene they cut out of Human Centipede 2 was the maniac apparently masturbates a woman with barbed wire, a stick of barbed wire. And that's the one thing they said was too extreme, and they cut it out of Human Centipede 2.
You know, I've seen that. Where did I see? I saw it in some movie. Oh, yeah.
A different movie, Rachel?
Yeah, this was a while ago, a long time ago.
Is it one of your home movies?
No. It's when me and my roommate used to sit at home and just try to find the sickest stuff on the internet ever.
Is it one of the real things like Pain Olympics?
No, it was simulated. It was just a movie, but I can't remember.
Now, Rachel, when you said no in response to Ted's question about if you ever film yourself, I heard you just sort of offhandedly giggle and laugh. Is that an indication of when you said no meaning yes, or did you mean no meaning no?
It was a stall tactic, so she could think about the.
It was a Herman Cain.
Guys, Rachel is an adult. She can speak for herself.
I need a little bit more detailed question.
Just, Ted, you could repeat the question.
Have you ever masturbated with barbed wire and filmed yourself doing it?
No.
Okay, what about the second half of that question?
Yeah, remove the have you ever with barbed wire and just only repeat the second half.
Forget the barbed wire aspect.
That's something I don't want on the internet.
If we're doing a masturbation thing, I would like to know.
This is the kind of pregnant pause that you love.
If we're asking masturbation questions, then I have one that I would like to know.
Sure, go ahead. Yes.
Chris Gore, what is are you a lefty or a righty?
Oh, righty, all the way righty. But what's great about being a righty is lefty is always the strange. You know what I mean? Like
it doesn't feel the same.
It's not as coordinated.
It really is something about that. But yeah, that works for me. I don't really have a comment there, except I get often very revealing when I do interviews. I feel like I'm actually more comfortable doing an interview than I am actually speaking to you right now in this podcast. I mean, I'm even more comfortable being a guest than I am being a host. I actually think that's probably what led to the creation of this podcast, is the fact that I'm actually very comfortable being a guest on a show, but less comfortable being a host of the show. When you're a host, you have work you have to do. You have to do, you kind of have to play traffic cop sometimes and point to here and do this and that. It's all the fun is kind of sucked out of it. When you're a guest, you can do whatever you want. So I feel a lot of freedom that way. So I end up saying things I often regret, to the amusement of everyone listening. I hope you're amused, at least. Anyways, back to the podcast.
Going on to other movies that came out this year.
So we're talking movies and hand jobs.
This is why the show gets kicked off.
Oh
stuff.
my gosh.
Yeah.
This is a normal thing. We wanted to talk about this week. It came on a DVD and Netflix on the same day, which is kind of unusual.
Right.
We saw, it's actually where you and I kind of became pals, I guess. Was it Chillerama?
Oh, I love Chillerama.
Sub-Z, I don't think we watched it on streaming. I saw
There were a couple of them I liked, but overall, I just wasn't highly impressed.
Wadzilla.
I like that.
Perhaps the greatest tribute.
I like the one and the Deathification. Other than that, the rest of the film was...
Those two were great. I mean, the thing is, I think it really does. It really works because I like the fact that the people that are watching the movie end up being in the movie. And that drive-in that they shot it at, the Pacific Violin Drive-In in City of Industry, I've been to that drive-in. I love that drive-in. That is, to me, I think the drive-in movie experience is actually being lost in the United States.
I agree.
There used to be, at the height of drive-ins in the 1960s, there used to be 6,000 drive-in movie theater screens. Currently, in the United States, there are around 200. That's
wow.
Hey, Chris.
200 drive-in screens. There's only one in outside of Los Angeles. It's in City of Industry. It's the Pacific Violin Drive-In. There are 4 screens. Each screen plays 2 movies. They play a movie like at dusk, and then another movie, and then they repeat the first movie. So in one given night, I can see 3 movies basically for $7 or $8. I bring in my own beer. I'll bring in some popcorn, and then what I'll do, I'm real old school. I'll bring in popcorn, and I'll wrap it in aluminum foil, and then I'll put it near my engine block to heat it up.
We used to have a drive-in in North Carolina.
It'll run down, and I would not buy the refreshments there. But I just bring my own stuff. I bring a cooler filled with beer, and then I'll even get some of those sports chairs with the drink holder, and just sit there and I'll watch 3 movies in a night. It's awesome.
It is really cool to see a movie at a drive-in. It's really awesome. Ours burnt down 2 years ago, which was sad.
Which one burned down?
It was in North Carolina. It was in Chapel Hill. It was called the Starlight Drive-In Theater. But yeah, it burnt down, and they did this whole campaign online trying to get the fans to help them rebuild it. And then the city came in and said, nope, can't rebuild this because they were too close to communities, and they were worried about sound issues and stuff, so they wouldn't let them rebuild it. But
it's really an amazing experience because you can either choose to have a group experience where you're outside, you can smell other people smoking marijuana, you'll see that people have brought their kids, and you can actually sit. I'll sit in one of the sports chairs, and I'm real hardcore where I'll get another friend to show up, and there'll be 2 cars, one on either side with windows rolled down only on the sides that face towards the center. Right. So basically I'm trying to create a surround sound experience, and then we bring the sound out through our respective stereos. It forces the sound towards the middle, and then you set up sports chairs like a little outdoor theater. It's I describe it as kind of it's like tailgating with movies.
Yeah.
So you can be outside and hang out, and I'll see a shitty movie. Like I saw Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Which was great at a theater because I'm seeing it in my car. I'm in a car watching a movie about racing cars, which made that shitty movie. I'm not a fan of the Fast and Furious films. I know people hate me for that, but in the right context, they're much more enjoyable than they could be. And
2 was good. I like 2.
You can also have a solitary experience at the drive-in. You can go in your car, you can roll up the windows, you can get a good spot way in the back, and you don't have to talk to anybody. People can smoke, you can text. You can bring your dog. You can bring your fucking dog to the movie. What other place can you will not be able to bring your dog to the ArcLight Theater here in LA. You can bring your dog to the Pacific Violin Drive-In. We should do a tweet up, Ted. We should do a tweet up, and we should go to the Pacific Violin one night. We'll do a movie night at the drive-in.
I love a dog.
Yeah, I don't have a dog either.
You got a cat though.
But if I had a dog, I would bring that dog to the drive-in with me.
Now, Chris, when you were watching Fast and the Furious in your car,
right.
You had the urge to hold the steering wheel and go vroom, vroom, vroom.
Oh, no. I did. It's weird. I'm sitting behind the wheel watching that movie.
it made it much more enjoyable than it actually could have been.
Going back to Chillerama.
Yeah, let's go back to Chillerama. I'm sorry.
I want to say now about Chillerama though. The second segment is what ruined that. It was
which one was that?
Really brought it down.
I was a teenage.
Wait a second. Okay, now let me ask you.
Werebear one too.
Now, don't take this the wrong way. You've got something of a Southern accent. Did the gay stuff make you uncomfortable?
No, I mean,
it's straight.
No, wait.
It was just dull. I mean, I'm sorry, it just wasn't.
So it was just boring.
It was boring too.
You didn't find yourself just a little attracted.
No.
I mean, you hardly see gym scenes where guys have pecs like that.
I haven't seen this movie yet.
I always felt
Rachel, you'd like it. Sorry, no barbed wire for you to masturbate with, but still.
I thought Werebear. I thought the movie was really fun, but Werebear was so bad. Tim Sullivan, who I don't know if you know Tim Sullivan or not. If you do know him, no offense to Tim Sullivan, he has made, I think, two of the worst things I've ever read since One was 2001 Maniacs, Field of Scream. Did you ever see that, Chris?
Oh yeah, no, I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, I still liked it. I liked the gory stuff. And the thing is, the Werebear stuff, it wasn't my favorite of the pieces in it, but it was still what it was going for was so like 50s. The way it made fun of stuff. It's sort of like it was like the music in it was amazing. I don't know. I just. And the thing is what I like about any anthology horror thing is like if you don't like one of the segments, there's always one that's weaker, right? Because your personal taste, there's going to be another one coming up. I mean, it was very fast paced. I don't know. Chillerama's like one of my favorite horror films of 2011.
I wanted to see Deathification stretched into
right.
Yes,
but it was perfect that they cut it off.
I thought it was hilarious.
It was hilarious. They did a great job.
They could have done that. Seriously, it's just people shitting. I could have watched it for 30 minutes. It was funny.
Well, we saw the screening of it, when I saw it, because I've seen the DVD now and all the extras and stuff, and it's great. They do a video commentary on the Blu-ray for Chillerama. It's awesome. But we saw it in a cemetery at a live screening. It was amazing at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. The cemetery is one of the best places to see a movie. Let's be honest. I mean, it's great.
Well, I always like that you get there, they're blasting basically death metal through a cemetery.
Right, no.
What do the dead people think about this? Like death metal.
But I love that.
Whereas I think there are certain series that might be better done as a miniseries. For example, American Horror. American Horror Story, for me, seeing where that series has been going, I feel like this would be a great miniseries. Give me 6 episodes that tells me one story. But the fact that they're trying to drag this thing on, it feels like it's dragging. I mean, to me, the entire season 2 of Lost was a waste of time.
Well, it was. Season 2 started with them floating on a makeshift raft. Season 3 is where it got ridiculous. The first 9 episodes is Jack and Sawyer in a cage.
Yeah,
that's when I stopped watching at the end of that season.
But then it got good, sort of end of season 3, and then it picked up, and then by the end, when they knew what the ending was, I mean, I really feel like stories have a finite thing. They have to be told over a certain period of time, and they have to have, like, we're going from here to there. When a writer doesn't know what you're going to, I mean, it was, having just watched all the extras on the last Harry Potter film, I mean, J.K. Rowling admits that, like, look, I knew exactly how it was going to end. It was going to end with Harry Potter being dead, being carried out of the woods.
Is that what happened? I haven't seen it yet.
Does he really die?
Sorry.
Well, I don't like Harry Potter, but that would have been cool if he had died.
Well, he does die in a sense. It's the whole Jesus thing, death and resurrection, But it's like in Hagrid is like carrying him out of the woods. But she knew she was going to have that scene. Like when she was writing the beginning of the story, she knew that with any writer, when you don't know where you're going, I think it becomes burdensome. And as soon as the writing on Lost got better when they knew they had when they were going to end it. Yeah. And that was something that I know that they fought for. So I think I think all these series, American television needs to really look at, do we need this many episodes?
Well, with Lost, they finally settled on 6. Like you said, the turning moment for me on that show when it got good was when Jack says we have to go back.
Right.
That was him talking about the show, I think. We have to go back to when it was good.
Right.
But I mean, with British television, it's they do shorter seasons, and I feel like that serves it. I mean, you can always go, okay, well, it's 6, we'll do another 6. It can happen in the same year. I think the thinking with TV, and it's sort of irrelevant now with the internet, though, and the way people consume media. I mean, you can get stuff, you can buy seasons on iTunes and then just watch them whenever you feel like it. I think the only problem is that you watch them and then try to not look at the internet at the same time. I mean,
Right.
I won't write about something till after it airs. If I've seen it early, I never write about it. I don't talk about the endings of movies, but I might comment on a TV show because people talk about after a TV show is aired, they talk about their dissatisfaction. I love the finale of Lost. I hated it. And I tweeted something about Dexter because there's a big twist with this season. In this season, and I thought I hated this season of Dexter until this twist. The twist in this season of Dexter actually explained all of the flaws, everything you hated about Dexter this season.
Oh, see, I totally disagree. I thought the twist was awful.
No, I thought
Everybody
it was
saw the
great
twist
because
coming. It wasn't
Well, my girlfriend has the best explanation. Colin Hanks looks like he has two faces. One, he looks scared. His other emotion is, I smell something.
Yeah.
He looks like he's smelling a fart. Look at every one of his quizzical looks. Colin Hanks is capable of one face only.
I have to actually give credit where credit is due. My girlfriend Mary Forrest actually is the one that figured that out. She sort of pinpointed every time we'd sit there and watch Dexter, we'd notice that Colin Hanks would make a face, and it looked like he smelled something bad, probably a fart. Someone has to do some sort of remix on the internet of just fart noises with Colin Hanks's face from the recent season of Dexter, so you can prove this theory to be true. But she pointed it out, and now a way I can always make her laugh. Pretty much anybody, if you can make that Colin Hanks face that, he's sort of got his nose turned up, his mouth is sort of a little bit of a frown with kind of one eyebrow raised. That was his go-to look. And I have to say, actually, once you figure out the twist for that season of Dexter, I think it actually ends up being really cool. At first, Colin Hanks is kind of lame, and then he gets much more interesting post-twist. So now back to the podcast, which unfortunately is about to turn into a complete sausage fest. Sorry, folks.
Any sort of TV show, they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, or it's like they're having problems with actors when they bring in the cousin, the friend, Crypto, Superboy's dog. Who gives a shit? None of that stuff. You fell in love with that show for a specific reason, which was because of the characters, not their extended fucking family. No one cares.
Remember 7 on Married with Children?
Oh my God!
7. That was the worst case of that ever.
No, it's terrible. Yeah,
that was sad though.
Cousin Oliver all over again. It's all that stuff.
Really quick, I have to head out, guys. Sorry.
Why are you heading out?
Because I have to pick up my boyfriend from work.
Now,
No, Rachel,
you're
you're
gonna
gonna-
pick up your boyfriend. He doesn't have his own car.
He should
Well,
buy
it's his car.
It's his car, but why didn't he take his car to work?
Because I had to go to a press event today, I needed
What was the
car.
press event?
It was for Silent Hill Downpour and Book of Memories.
Wait, Rachel, you're going to end up missing Subsy's Racist Comment of the Week, which is really good this
That's
week.
my favorite segment.
You have time to get. Now wait, can't your boyfriend wait? Isn't this podcast more important?
It should be, but yeah.
You want Chris to call him for you?
Yeah, let's get him on the phone. Give me his number. We'll call him right now.
No, I gotta go pick him up.
Okay,
I'm already half an hour late.
All right, now
and
wait.
it takes me half an hour to
If you're
get
a
there.
good girlfriend, you're probably wearing something cute when you pick him up, right?
I'm always wearing something cute.
Tell us about it.
Oh, it's nothing. I'm in a mini skirt. That's at least something cute.
Okay. Ted, wait. What's this note? Ted wants to know.
I had to end up writing a letter of apology after I asked these questions.
That's
I
true.
remember this.
Ted, I don't give a shit.
That was
Ted-
because my old boyfriend back then was stuffy. So-
Right. This boyfriend is cool with mini skirts, but Ted wants to know if you're wearing panties with that mini skirt because that's the advantage.
Of course.
I'm whispering sweet nothings into Chris's ear and having him ask him.
No, he's writing things down and passing, which I think is the polite way. 'Cause Ted couldn't actually ask something like that, but I can.
I've always been too shy to ask you that myself, Rachel.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. You always.
You know what?
can
Mix it up. No panties. No panty pickup. That's what you do. It's no panty pickup day.
I think
Go
you should
for
go
it.
completely naked and take a motorcycle to pick him up.
You know it's freezing outside, right?
All the better, right,
So
Chris?
the fact that I'm in
Yeah.
a mini
All the
skirt
better.
at all is special.
The chat room wants you to come back.
But it takes me half an hour just to get there. So it's going to take me an hour to get back.
Somebody in chat just said Yum yum African man stink like chocolate. That's actually in chat.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
probably Sub-Z, just by a different name. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Have fun with your boyfriend.
All right, bye, everybody.
Last night, this is very brief, we watched the remake of Conan the Barbarian over... Chris, is that a...
Wait a minute. Wait. You did what?
Is it a pass?
I know we watched.
No, yeah, Conan's a pass. I passed on that last week. It's
Derek, you didn't watch it because it was a cool sausage was gonna have to.
Oh yeah, I don't want.
Here's how bad. Here's how bad the new Conan is. It's so bad it makes you think that Arnold Schwarzenegger was really good.
Oh yeah,
and actually you go back and think like his accent kind of worked. He was more buff than the other guy. I think they picked a guy that was way too pretty.
The story was dumb.
The story was dumb for the new Conan. The old Conan was fucking great. I mean, it had James Earl Jones was the fucking badass guy who could change into a snake, and he was Darth Vader's voice. I mean, it was also and plus it had the Basil Polidorus score, that music, dun 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 dun, with the big drums and the horns. I mean, it makes the original Conan look good. If you're going to do a reboot, a remake, make it more. And I mean, he's got the sort of. Here's what's annoying is Conan's got that like friend who's like the pirate, the black dude, who he's like basically they're doing like high fives and stuff that's like modern. Yeah. They're interacting with each other in kind of a modern hip hop way, which I find such fucking bullshit. I hate that.
Tobacco, damn it!
So annoying.
There was 50.
And I'm not against like racism. All right, but it's like when it's like stupid and easy like that. I'm talking about racist humor. There's.
We almost had Chris Gore's racist comment of the week. I'm not.
No. I'm just like it's like look. I mean, it's about something that look. It's prevalent in society. I grew up in a mixed family in Detroit. I have black people in my family. I grew up my girlfriend in college was black. I experienced a lot of racism in a completely different way, just because.
Wait, is Chris Gore actually using my best friend is black? Excuse?
I'm not doing the best friend is black. I put my penis inside black girls. How about that? That's even better. But all I'm saying is that. I just feel like there just can be more of an honesty and less of a bullshit politeness, which mostly comes from white people, if you ask me. I think the only person I know that will go somewhere where there's all white people, and I feel nervous. So, and then the terms always bug me too, because I mean, when people say African American, that's cool. I grew up when you would just say black, which I don't know if that's cool or not, but I have a friend named William who is black, who is not American. He's British. So what the fuck do I call him? British, black, British, African, British? Derek, go.
It's black. It's not African American.
Exactly. It should just be
that
black.
Would denote that you're African before you're American.
African. Yeah. What the? I mean, I
live in a politically correct society.
I'm English, Irish, Russian, Polish. I'm like everyone in Europe got together and fucked and had an orgy. That's where I came from. But I'm not going to call myself European. I mean, and Caucasian just sounds like something. Just call me white.
Wait, is this going into a review of our movie Dead Heist, or are we going to skip over?
I don't know. I'm just going on a rant. And I had a buddy of mine in college. This guy I started Film Threat with years ago. Andre Seawood, who's black. And I'm white dude. We're like best friends in college. And we would wear shirts in college that would just say in giant large letters, we had these made. One said white person. The other said black person. I mean, these giant tall letters on these shirts. We would just walk around campus just to fuck with people.
You can always pull a Clerks too and write Porch Monkey on the front and say, I'm taking it back.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? Well, first of all, I apologize for that rant.
Oh no.
I just certain things bug me. I just think if people are just honest with each other and treat people as human and with respect, I think respect is the most important aspect. And I feel like that's experienced. Disrespect is experienced quite a bit in LA. You just see much more class differentials, and I observe it a lot, and I feel like if you just treat people with respect, all that bullshit just goes away.
Listen carefully, Sub-Z. You should be taking notes right now.
I agree with Chris Gore completely. You just never listen.
Going back to the what you're talking about, Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice, though.
Right.
that movie was so bad. I was watching Sub-Z's favorite movie of all time is Conan the Barbarian.
Which you talking the older
the
one?
Original one.
The
The original one
original
is
one.
not a bad movie.
Yeah.
It's,
I love
I mean,
the
it's directed by John Milius, who is, he's a renowned right wing. I mean, he's the guy's hardcore. But I feel like that movie does hold up for its entertainment value. The new Conan feels like an episode of its TV show.
Hercules, the TV series.
Well, we started.
Yeah, it does. You're right. It does feel like Conan the TV series. It's very episodic. The acting is all over the place. I mean, you don't really get a sense of what the world is like. I mean, you get a sense that the world in the original Conan the Barbarian was fucking brutal. It's people just trying to survive, and they don't hit you over the head with it. You know, it just is brutal. You know, it's not like we're going to show you brutal.
I mean, it was more realistic gore in the original.
Yes, exactly. The original was more realistic. In this, it was just like in your face. It was,
I don't like,
and there were just like gratuitous sex. Look, I'm in favor of boobs. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but when nudity just seems like we're just having a girl there.
They had that one scene just to have it.
Yeah. It just stands out. Difficult to jerk off to as well. Ted, you were saying.
I said I don't like in these movies where the gore it's like Mortal Kombat gore, where he like basically whacks a guy with a sword in 9 gallons of blood.
Yeah.
Right.
He had like somebody in the back
digital
with it,
blood.
barely.
It's a lot of digital blood.
What I was gonna say, what we did, that movie was so bad. About maybe 30. It took us like 20 minutes to realize how bad it was. We started actually dubbing over what Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan would be saying. In this
He would say in that situation.
The whole movie, I'm like, Conan don't sit in bars and arm wrestle. Conan doesn't make jokes and high five.
No, exactly. I mean, I feel like that Arnold Schwarzenegger's portrayal, his weaknesses as an actor were a strength for the character of Conan. He didn't talk much. When he did, he spoke in this bizarre accent, and he just sort of looked at you mean. I mean, it worked. It really worked, and I love the transition of him from a child to a man, and he really does start off as sort of this innocent freak. I mean, the sequel is pretty dumb.
It's like he's a badass when he's 12 and kills like 5 people.
Like, when he's 12, he's like, I can carry an egg in my mouth and not break it. Schwarzenegger's like, I push a giant wheel for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. 20 years and then build up my strength. No, I love that. I mean, I didn't like how they portrayed. He was young Conan for way too long.
He was.
It was again. It felt like a TV show. And the 3D was unnecessary.
It felt like
as well.
a TV show actor playing Conan, Jason Momoa, or whoever.
You know what? I don't even remember. Let's stop talking about Conan. No more Conan.
First of all, apologies for that rant. I mean, it was supposed to be a horror podcast, and here I am going off on some rant about racism. But it's always something that's a thing that will make me write someone off completely. Is if I find out that they're just some racist asshole. I do not like to have friends like that. No, they won't be a friend of mine. But a little odd story, little divert-related odd story, is my friend Mark Bell, who runs Film Threat, actually was born in South Africa. And he happens to be a white dude. Mark Bell is white. He's a white dude. And he was born in South Africa, and he actually put on his college application that he was an African American in applying for college and trying to get grants, because technically that's true. Was born in Africa, and he is an American, but is of the white skin. So his grant application was rejected because technically he's not the right kind of African American. So I just think that's always funny and something you can bring up next time you see Mark. In any case, back to the last chunk of this podcast, the Spooky Hour Horror.
I asked Chris before the show to try to make a list of his 5 favorite horror movies of all time.
I made the list, and this was not easy to do.
It's on his. He actually made notes on his phone. That's how dedicated to the Spooky Hour podcast Chris Gore is.
I take this very seriously, because also, can I just say something first? I hate lists. I hate lists because I feel like they're really just a window into a certain moment in time. I mean, if you listed the best video games of 1982. Or this is like, if you in 1982, you said, oh my God, this is the best video game of all time. It's not of all time. You could never make a best video game of all time because technology changes so quickly. Something that was the best video game of 2007 is going to pale in comparison to what's happening in 2012 and beyond.
I think Derek H would disagree with that about the video games.
Well, first of all, the best video game of all time is Elite. Of course, there's no.
I'm just saying that I despise lists. I despise rankings. But people really love them. To give some sort of context, I'm always asked what my favorite this, my favorite that. I feel like if you're going to do a list like this, you ask me my top 5 horror films. In order for me to make a list like that, I must first decide what the criteria is. And for me, the criteria is these are horror films that affected my behavior. Meaning, after seeing that movie, I was affected in a way that it made me afraid of something. It changed the way I ate. It just changed me in a way that happened beyond just getting a jump in the theater. Just being scared of the movie theater went beyond that. The experience of that movie actually permeated my life in a real way. So I did make a list. So Ted, how would you like me to do this? You want me to start, 5 leading up?
5 to 1. We have no intro music.
Okay, there's no music. You're not going to build it. Let's put some music behind this.
I think it's hilarious that Chris just went on like 5 minutes about how he hates doing lists, and then Ted's like, do a list of 5 your 5 things.
Sure, why not?
I will say that it's hard for me to make these because it's hard for me to make these because I like so many films. I'm going to say that a lot of things I considered, like Eraserhead, I thought about putting that on the list. That film really disturbed me. Is it horror? David Lynch's Eraserhead. That could be argued, but it really affected me. I mean, the dreamlike nature of it. Silence of the Lambs is not on my top 5, but it's still there. It's still in my notables. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which that movie is. It's less gory than you think because it plays on your
the original or the remake.
What's that? Oh no, I'm talking about the old school one. Okay. Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, the original from the 70s. Although having seen clips from it recently, it's not as scary as I remember it. A Twilight Zone really affected me as a kid. This episode of the Twilight Zone where they say to serve man as a cookbook. I think the title of the episode is To Serve Man. You find it's a cookbook. That episode scared the crap out of me as a kid. I must have seen it when I was 8 years old. I remember I slept with the light on.
They made a Simpsons out of that, too.
Yeah, The Exorcist. Shaun of the Dead, I love still. 28 Days Later. And another one, Attack of the Mushroom People, which was from Toho Studios. It was from the people who brought you, Godzilla and whatnot. Attack of the Mushroom People is a Japanese film where people eat these mushrooms and then end up turning into mushroom-like trees. Disturbed me when I was a kid. I was so creeped out. But none of these films that I just mentioned are in my top 5.
I always wonder why people keep putting that Sandra Bullock movie in as a great horror movie. I did not think Sandra Bullock was that scary in 28 Days Later.
28 Days. They had an office joke about that. Pam's like, I watched 28 Days for 30 minutes before I realized.
That's right.
This movie's way scarier than I thought it was going to be.
But so here's my top 5, starting with 5, and I have reasons for all these. The big reason is, and most of these films I saw when I was younger, and they're ones that I have revisited. So there are movies that affected my behavior, and there are also horror films that I would watch again, and they still scare me. Ooh. I'm still scared of these movies. Okay, so number 5 on my list is Jaws.
Oh, Cool Sausage. We have a guy named Cool Sausage. He's a 17-year-old little punk. He sometimes is our 5th host. He hates that movie.
Oh.
I tell him he's crazy every day. It's one of my 5 favorite movies ever.
It's one of my 5 favorite. Yeah, it's definitely in one of my top films, but it's my number 5 horror film because it's genuinely scary. It's also, I think that really good horror comes from real fears that people have. Sharks exist and they can eat you. It does happen, a couple times a year there'll be a news story of someone eaten by a shark.
Well, that's like a story I tell people. My sister-in-law can't watch horror movies. Back years ago, I was like, let's go see The Village. We're going to go to a movie. She's like, I don't want to go see The Village. It has monsters. And we're like, it's a dumb movie. It has monsters. So she agreed instead to go see Open Water.
Right.
And she goes, well, I can see open water because I know that sharks aren't going to come into my house and get me.
Open water is way better than the village.
And I'm like, sharks are going to come into your house, or fictitious monsters are going to come into your house and get you?
All right, so that's number 5. Number 4 on my list. Oh my gosh, it's a tie.
No.
This is how I cheat, and I get more movies on my list.
Another one in there? Yeah.
No, okay, so number 4 is a tie between Halloween, the original Halloween, and The Thing. So in a way, this is my nod to John Carpenter. The original Halloween, Mike Myers, it's so scary. And The Thing, which is the last film I saw it when I was a kid. I was 16 years old. I saw it by myself, and I slept with the light on. When I was 16 years old, I kept the light on. I was so friggin' scared by John Carpenter's The Thing. At number 3 on my list, The Fly, David Cronenberg.
Yes.
I mean, really, really disturbing. I mean, the subtext of that film is it's all about sexually transmitted diseases. That's what that movie's really
You're
about.
saying Gina Davis is dirty.
Well, I'm saying that because Jeff Goldblum's character in The Fly, Seth Brundle, he ends up being promiscuous. He that's when he begins to become disfigured. After he has sex with the girl he just picks up for a one-night stand.
Well,
and what's funny
likes to put those kind of messages in his films.
Well, I mean, Cronenberg is. I love Cronenberg. He's always he'll always sort of sneak some sexual imagery. There's a great thing if you look in the medicine cabinet when he's turning more into The Fly. There's a penis in one of the jars, one of the little baby jars of. He's collecting sort of the pieces of him that falling off, and you can find a penis there. Okay, so The Fly is number 3. Number 2 on my list of my personal list of top 5 horror films for me. Number 2 is Alien, the original Ridley Scott Alien. The scene where John Hurt begins to choke. I saw this in the theater, and I was a little kid when I saw this in the theater, okay? And I went with another buddy of mine. My mom would drop me off to go see the movies. She doesn't frickin' know. And I went to see this. I was not a teenager at that time. Went and saw the movie with myself and a buddy from school. And that scene, when John Hurt starts to choke and the audience knows what's happening, I got up out of my seat and ran to the bathroom because I was so afraid to see what was going to occur. The mere sound of the cracking of John Hurt's chest on the big screen. And I was in the bathroom to avoid it, although I could still hear it. It was so loud. And I was in that bathroom with a bunch of other adults who also went to the bathroom scared. And I was at the men's room.
Same thing happened to me with Teen Wolf, Chris. It did.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I've seen a horror film recently because I think people they're immune to the gory stuff. Yeah. But that movie really disturbed me. I think Ridley Scott he tries to ground his films in some sense of reality, which I think he's one of the best science fiction directors of all time is Ridley Scott. So Alien is my number 2 and number 1 on my list, my personal list of the top 5 horror films. Oh my God! Number 1, it's also a tie.
I knew it.
It's also a tie. No. I can't believe it. This has never happened. It's a tie. This is insane. But yes, it's a tie for number 1. Number 1 on my top 5 horror films of all time, according to me, is the original Night of the Living Dead and the original Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
Folks, wow. Now, do I need to even explain why those two films? First of all, the original Night of the Living Dead created the zombie. And what's funny is in that film, they're never called zombies. They're called flesh-eating ghouls on the news. And Dawn of the Dead changed cinema forever in the same way that the opening shot of the original Star Wars changed the movies when we all saw the Star Destroyer go above our heads. When I saw that guy, that door flings open and that guy's head explodes, that was unlike anything. And I saw it at the theater when I was a kid. It was a marathon. I was there with my buddies. We saw this. I think the movie started playing at like 4 or 5 a.m. because it was a marathon. Had to go to this downtown theater to see it. Huge packed audience. This is in downtown Detroit, back when this movie opened in the 80s. It was amazing. I mean, it was just one of those things where we were so freaked out. The music for that, the fact that it ends on such a dark note, just as the original. And it's one of those films that resonates because of, the political and social commentary, which I always love that Romero kind of sneaks into every film.
What did you think of the Dawn of the Dead? The Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead remakes? They weren't bad.
No, the funny thing is, I'm actually in the Night of the Living Dead remake with Tony Todd.
Really?
I spent Oh yeah, no, I spent 2 weeks sleeping on the couch of the two guys who did some of the makeup effects. Two of the guys who did the makeup effects, and I'm in the movie. There's actually, if you go to my Facebook page or I've tweeted pictures of it. I have many Twitter accounts. I'm at that Chris Gore on Twitter, but I also have a Twitter account, Zombie Chris Gore. So it's at Zombie Chris Gore, and I've tweeted photos of myself in this makeup where I have an eye dripping down my face. And I was on set for 2 weeks. I went to zombie school where they taught us how to walk like zombies. I learned all about back to one. I was on a hill, walking. I was one of the zombies in the background. And I can point myself out in a scene where after the truck blows up, I'm the first zombie that goes up to the truck and pulls the charred body of Billy Butler out of the truck. And I begin to consume him. And I was eating basically cold and kind of gross chicken covered in, it's that concoction of Caro syrup and food coloring. Yeah. It's gross. But when they say action, I mean, and Tom Savini directed me in the scene. It was awesome. He was like, okay, you go over here and you do this. And we did it like 3 times, and I'm the first one to go up and grab it, and then everyone else converges. So I had kind of featured zombie makeup. But it was a highlight. I got to meet George Romero. I mean, and I was literally there as a fan, and then I wrote a story about it in Film Threat magazine.
And that was the day they gave you the name Chris Gore.
Well, people asked me if Gore is my last, it is my last name. I interviewed George Romero, actually. We were talking about Diary of the Dead. I did the junket for that. I interviewed George Romero, and I asked him if he was ever going to explain, because in none of the George Romero directed zombie movies do we ever find out the cause of the zombie outbreak.
They hinted at it in the first one. They hinted that it was
it was like satellite. A meteor or a spaceship returning that may have brought back a virus. I liked that. I liked that there was some hint, but not anything conclusive. But I when I was talking to him, he got into a whole thing about like why, never in the universe, and no one ever brings this up, what happens to animals when they die? Dogs, birds, cats, livestock, when they die, are there zombie animals in this world? We got this. I mean, it went 10. I was the last interview of the day, so he just talked for me for like 10, 15 minutes. Normally, you only get a 4-minute window to talk to these people. So I talked to Romero about that, and somehow he said he wanted to do some incarnation of his Dead series in which they would explain what happened to animals. And I said, "Are you ever going to explain why there's a zombie outbreak?" I said, "My theory is Jesus. Jesus was the first zombie. He rose from the dead." I said, maybe it's a secret that the Catholic Church has kept for years. And this is also not an original thought.
Like that half demon baby coming to American Horror Story.
Right, like a lot of people, exactly. A lot of people have said, look, happy Zombie Jesus Day. I mean, that's Easter, right? So what was funny is that his reaction to it was, hey, that's kind of a good idea. So, I'd just like to see Romero with a budget actually do a zombie film, maybe in the way he intended, because I know that the original script, Day of the Dead, for me was kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
It sounds like he wants to do
like
Pet Cemetery 4 or something.
But the original script was, tens of thousands of zombies in like Lord of the Rings style giant battle fashion, battling each other. It was basically that the world's armies had been sort of recreated in zombie form, and countries now used giant armies of zombies to invade each other. I mean, it was interesting. It was more of a political think piece on modern warfare, and it would have been epic and amazing. He just never had the budget. That always is sort of a thing that modern directors get caught in. Like, Francis Ford Coppola was given 6 weeks to write the script for Godfather 3 because he had to open on Christmas Day.
And that's like a 3.5-hour movie.
Yeah, he wanted to take 6 months just to write it. That's just not the way that modern Hollywood works. Modern Hollywood says, we're making the movie and this is when it opens. We should write that movie.
Right.
They say the writing of the movie is an afterthought.
They think of the poster first.
And Coppola wanted to take 6 months to write Godfather 3. He took 6 weeks, and the result is the weakest of all of the Godfather films.
It's the Attack of the Clone of the Godfather.
It's the episode 1 of Godfather.
Well, that's our show this week, folks. I really want to thank everyone from the Spooky Hour Horror Hour. They just had a great sense of humor. I appreciate them tolerating my rantings and ravings. Ted Bracewell, who does the show, you can find him on Twitter at Ted Aiken. Kind of like Anakin, but with Tedekin. It's TEDAKIN on the Twitter at Tedekin. He's very funny, and Spooky Hour Horror Hour is an awesome show. Now, and we didn't just talk about horror. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about racism. We talked about Godfather films. We talked about a lot of stuff. It was a lot of fun. And also, if you are up on the iTunes and you're looking around, you're subscribing to PodCRASH, give us a good rating. Just go ahead and click on the little 5 stars if you think we deserve it, and leave a comment. I do read them all, and I do appreciate the fact that the comments have been so positive so far. I mean, if you'd like to have me crash some other podcasts, or if you have a podcast, or if you'd like to see me crash a particular one that you like, why don't you mention it? Mention it on the Twitter, at PodCRASH Show. That's the Twitter account for the show. Ask questions. You can mention other podcasts you'd like to see me appear on, or if you have a podcast, let me know about it. I really love discovering all the new podcasts, and I appreciate the fact that a lot of these podcasts have allowed me to invade them orally. That's orally with an AURAL. Anyways, thanks again. Until next time, final words, and I must say it. Let's get out of here!
You son of a...
Hey, if you're still listening to this podcast, then you're a lot like me. You're probably the kind of person who stays and watches all the credits at the end of a movie. I like you, and for that, you shall be rewarded. In fact, I have several rewards this week, actually. The first 5 people to @reply to PodCRASH Show and say, "Smile, you son of a bitch," will win a DVD. That's the first 5 people to @reply to @PodCRASH Show. You get a DVD. And anyone who sends a self-addressed stamped envelope, that's an envelope addressed to yourself with a stamp on it that you put in an envelope and you mail to this address, you get something sent back to you for free. Just send it to That Chris Gore, 5042 Wilshire Boulevard, PMB 1500, Los Angeles, California, 90036. And if you continue listening, you'll hear a little bonus material. Consider this your Easter egg. Something I wasn't quite sure if I should include in the entire body of the show. But one of the people from the Spooky Hour Horror Hour asked me kind of an uncomfortable question. And here is how I responded to that question. Later.
I want to know if Chris Gore thinks Olivia Munn was smart or stupid for leaving Attack of the Show.
Well, first of all,
that's your plug?
I'll tell you this. Yeah, that's your plug. I'll tell you this. Olivia Munn is extremely smart. I mean, she's one of the most driven, intelligent women that she is the most intelligent and driven woman I've ever worked with. And I say work with, I mean directly work with, where I'm standing in a room with her. I think that Attack of the Show spoke to her strengths, and she really kind of took over the show. When she was on it with Kevin, it became Olivia Munn and friends. And really, I think Kevin, because he's such an unselfish performer, was just like, let her like, all right, cool. He played more the straight man, but that's what's cool about Kevin is he's extremely malleable. He'll be like, all right, you do this, you do this. It's really unselfish. He'll be like, okay, I'll stand out. It's like, and having worked with him a bunch, like, he'll kind of be the funny guy and then I'll be the funny guy, and it goes kind of back and forth. But Olivia, I think Attack of the Show spoke to her strengths. I'm not sure that all of the things that she has done since have spoken to her strengths. I think she's played bit parts in movies. I think what she probably should have done is developed an indie film project or something that spoke to her strengths. And I know that she'll end up doing something like that. I mean, you can't blame her for wanting to have success beyond G4.
Have you ever masturbated with shrimp in front of her?
What's that?
Have you ever masturbated with shrimp in front of her?
That was not me, no. And I don't even know all the details on that story.
Is that a true story?
First of all, I don't know if it's a true story. I mean, I haven't spoken to Olivia about that. So next time I see her, I guess I would. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Bring it up, just out of the blue.
What's that?
I said, just bring it up out of the blue.
I guess I could text her.
We get Olivia on the line right now on the show.
Probably not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could call her. But I don't know. I am a huge Olivia fan. I think her best work is still on Attack of the Show. I don't think that the NBC series, because she should have been the lead. She should have done. I mean, I watched that show Whitney on NBC, and when I say watch it, I mean the first 30 seconds of Whitney is at the very end of the episode of The Office. So I watch The Office, and then I'm subjected to the piece of shit that is this Whitney show. And this is also coming from a fan of Whitney stand-up comedy. I also happen to love Whitney on all of the Comedy Central roasts.
What about Chelsea Handler?
That show is fucking interminable. It's awesome. Torture. It's an outdated style of comedy that I wish would die. In contrast with The Office, just shows you how weak and how much it pales in comparison. And the 30 seconds that I will see of the Whitney show, I am literally reaching, my girlfriend and I are both reaching for the remote to go, no, it burns. It is god awful.
Yet it was picked up for another season.
Now, let me just say this.
That's how smart they are.
If Olivia Munn did the exact same show, it would be a million times better, because I believe that Olivia has a likability that Whitney lacks. So there you go. There's my rant. I think that what Olivia needs to do is develop something in which she is the center, not a bit player in a sitcom on NBC, or a bit player in something like the Daily Show, or a waitress in Date Night, where they cut out all her funny shit. So I hope Olivia would listen to this, and I would also, everything I'm telling you now is something that I would tell directly to Olivia's face, is she needs to make something that is about her, because that's when she's good. And when it's not about her, she's not as good. It doesn't speak to her strengths.
Well, Chris, I can guarantee you Olivia Munn listens to the Spooky Hour Horror Hour.
Right.
I guarantee you she doesn't.
You'll hear this.
I've spoken to her a couple times. I think we got into... we were talking about the Oscars last time we spoke on Twitter, and I sent her a direct message over Twitter after all this Brett Ratner nonsense exploded, which I blame myself for, actually. So
you're the one that handed him the shrimp.
No, I am the one that... Here's what happened. I was doing the Tower Heist screening, and I walk in the room, and Brett Ratner's there, and I've met him before at film festivals and whatnot. And the thing is this: whatever you think about Brett Ratner's movies, some are good, some are worse. Whatever you think about his movies, he is one of the nicest guys on the planet. He's no bullshit. I like that guy. I really do. I think Brett Ratner is he's a stand-up dude who speaks his mind, whereas everybody else in Hollywood's trying to be diplomatic and speak around things. He's a straight shooter, tell the truth, no bullshit. I like to think of myself as the same way. So I get along with Brett Ratner. I walk in, say hello. First thing, I sit down, I go, I'm Chris Gore from Attack of the Show, G4 TV. He goes, Attack of the Show. Attack of the Show. That's the show with Olivia Munn. And I said, I've got nothing to do with Olivia anymore, because we've run into some cases where some people I've interviewed have issues with Olivia.
What?
I said, look, she's no longer on the show anymore. Blah, 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 thinking there might have been some nonsense. He then repeats to me this story that Olivia made a comment about him in her book, which I'll say this to Olivia also. When I read the book, and which I didn't finish it, I got halfway through and realized I'm not mentioned in the book. Kevin's only mentioned in a caption. I think she really missed the boat by not saying anything in the book about her career on Attack of the Show. It really was her sort of early struggles and whatnot. And while that's interesting as a part of a book, I think the stories that people really want to know are, how did you get on Attack of the Show? What's it like to work with Kevin? What's it like to work with Chris Gore? Is Chris Gore really as awesome as he sounds like in the 4 minutes that he's on every week on Tuesdays?
But G4's demographic doesn't really read stuff.
What's it like in between the commercial when you and Chris Gore talk to each other? Have you ever hung out with Chris Gore? those kinds of things. People want to know Olivia's opinions about those things. At least I do. So I only got through halfway through her book and realized, like, this is sort of her personal story, and I'll listen to the books on tape version. I'd rather have Olivia read it to me than have to imagine her talking in my head. So in any case, Brett Ratner goes on about this story that's apparently about him in the book, and it was the story that you can find it on the internet. In any case, so I go back to, and I try to be very diplomatic in these situations. I just got to get my little entertaining stuff in my 4-minute long interviews when I'm doing these junkets. So establish rapport, sit down, funny question, boom, out. Any case, when I returned back to my place of work at Attack of the Show, I repeated this story to one of the producers on Attack of the Show, Sean Jordan. I said, there's an interesting story that you need to know because Brett Ratner is going to be on the show next week, and I think that you should know that he had kind of something to say about Olivia Munn, and I need you to know this. So I repeated the story that Brett Ratner told me about him being mentioned in an unflattering way in Olivia's book, and whether it might be a problem. So Sean Jordan then brought it up to Brett Ratner in the pre-interview, and Brett Ratner's like, hey, I'm happy to talk about it. And I really kind of feel like Attack of the Show, you handled the Olivia exit in kind of a pussy way. And Olivia too. I mean, they're both to blame, and I'll explain why. And I've said this in other places, but I'll tell you guys, I feel like Olivia just wanted to have a career beyond Attack of the Show. She just wanted to leave G4 and go, I want to do movies and other TV. There's nothing wrong with that. And she had full freedom in her contract to do it. The problem is they kept having this chat roulette of other hosts fill in for Olivia, yet the opening of the show was a montage with Olivia on the show. Yep. And that was confusing for viewers.
And her in the picture of her in the Superman costume right on the set.
Exactly. They had pictures of her on the set. So, and she was not around. They didn't, so it was confusing to the viewers. And I think the viewers just wanted to be told what was going on. Just wanted to be honest. Like, look, why are all these people here? But is Olivia on the show or not? And when Olivia never said anything and the network never said anything, the audience felt betrayed. And I had always wanted to make jokes about it. I always wanted to, I would want to work in a joke on DVD Tuesday, sort of about, where's Olivia? Or just something that would be funny. Finally, by Brett Ratner saying this stuff, it kind of opened up the floodgates. Like, okay, good. This is good. It's sort of, in a way, it was an experience that I think everybody wanted to hear that. But I always say that, the audience is kind of like when finally Candace was announced as the host, it was sort of like, okay. And they knew that Olivia was leaving. It was like, we know. The audience was like, we know. We've watched the show. The opening of the show has Olivia in the opening credits, and then she's not on the show. We know this. It's like, mom and dad are just finally tell the kids they're getting a divorce, and the kids say, we know. We know. Mom's been sleeping on the couch for 6 months. We know you're getting a divorce. So when it was finally officially announced to the audience felt a little somewhat betrayed, and it's not something that I've always agreed with. I always think that you should just be honest about stuff. For example, I signed a 5-year contract with G4. My contract is up this June. Will I be back?
Will you be back?
God, I hope so.
Will I be back? It's June or July. Will I continue to stay on Attack of the Show?